That is not the same screen, different landscape. Please explain. Yeah, I didn't explain anything in those videos, huh? Okay. Teaching opportunity activate. Sakura style magic! Ugh, I kind of look like the Ochako, don't I? What exactly is a Japanese style room and what does it take to reform one? Well, in this video, I'm going to do just that. Not only will I give you the breakdown on what makes a traditional style room here in Japan, but I will give you the full story of the construction that went into the room that I'm sitting in now, which is now my filming studio. Let's fling open that curtain. This is considered a traditional style room. Japanese rooms are mostly paper and wood, grass and dirt. Let me give you the basic 101 tour. Now, I am going to throw out a whole bunch of Japanese words at you. Whoa, wait. Don't be scared. I'll hold your hand if you need me to. Okay, here we go. This is a fusuma. This is a shoji. Basically, a door and a window. Both of them are made with the same wooden lattice frame. That's right. Inside this is this. This is covered on both sides with thicker paper, while as this one is covered on one side with thinner paper. The fusuma and shoji can be removed by just lifting up and pulling them out. Replacing the paper was done once a year during Osoji, but not so much nowadays, since houses and apartments are more westernized. The room is surrounded on four sides by kabe. Kabe is extremely complicated for a one-on-one video. The types of traditional kabe that you may have seen are tsuchi kabe, which is bamboo and rice straw and mud, and then the shikui kabe, which is the white plastered walls. This room was built 30 years ago, so it is textured paneling. You also can have wallpapered kabe, like in my apartment in Osaka. You don't want to hang anything from the kabe because repairing it would be quite a challenge. Instead, a more traditional room will have nageshi for you to stick hooks and hangers in. And then you have the oshiire and the tenbukuro. Simply put, these are the storage spaces for a traditional room to keep the room less cluttered. Now, in some cases, this room may have been the only room in your house, so you would store your futon, your makura, maybe a few extra kimono. But in my case, I hide away a kimono tansu kimono that could not fit into the tansu studio filming equipment, not in use, cold on stage equipment, a whole kotatsu set, and a futon set with seasonal kake and shikibuton. The flooring is the most iconic in a traditional style room. The tatami flooring is made from igusa, and the edges boarded off with heri. For those of you who have never seen the underside of a tatami floor panel, there it is. The underside of a tatami mat can be made depending on how durable you want your mat to be. But mostly under here is made of ine, which is rice straw, or wood chips, or polystyrene foam, or a mix of those. And then when you get your new tatami mat, they are actually green in color, but they do fade to brown over time. So these mats are about 3 months old, and you can see around this area here, it is starting to dry out. What is not in this room is a tokonoma. Now, a tokonoma is usually used in tea ceremonies, but it's a simple place for hanging a kakejiku or setting flowers. Now, one thing I did learn recently about a tokonoma is that you can only put ikebana creations there. No potted plants and soil are allowed there. And so, just to recap, fusuma, shoji, kabe oshiire, tenbukuro, tatami tokonoma. So now, a little background information on the room and why construction was necessary. So this space has been around for quite a while. It was very brand new the year before the Hanshin Awaji earthquake. What was the Hanshin Awaji earthquake? We'll do that in another video. Was the room damaged from the earthquake? There are some boo-boos here and there, but the structure is very solid, so no. What was the problem with the place then? Apart from being abandoned for more than a year, in one word, water. This room sits on a stony mountain face where water can choose to run as freely as wild horses on grassy plains. So there is a humidity issue in this room that was not addressed in the initial construction. And that's what the present day construction was brought in to fix. So now let me recap each short and explain to you what all was done to this room that I couldn't fit into 20 or 30 seconds. I also want to thank our contracting firm, Fukuya Komuten, for their very excellent service and beautiful handiwork.
Wow!
The video that gave this video life. Like I said before, a fusuma is nothing more than paper glued onto a wooden lattice frame. In humid and air-conditioned spaces, the paper tends to brown and can develop these brown splotchy spots of mold. There's no way to wipe off the mold once it gets on there, since this is made of paper. The only way to get rid of it is by replacing the paper. Now you can do it yourself or you can get it professionally done. I got these professionally done because the contractor had already been contacted. The contractor representative gave me a website of designs I could choose from. It took me a couple of days to decide, but I finally chose this mountain scene rather than the original design. Once I gave the okay, the contractor took the old doors away to a recommended specialist, the specialist did the deed, and the newly covered fusuma were back in a couple of weeks. It's really complicated to change out fusuma paper by yourself and do it the right way. So there is a right way and a wrong way. The wrong way would be if you bought the paper, you slapped it on the old paper, and you cut around the edges and called it done. That's the wrong way. The right way is that there is a very special tool that's sold in hardware stores for you to take off the wooden sides of the door. So you take off the wooden sides, then you strip off the paper, you strip off the old glue, then you put on the new glue and the new paper, and then put the sides back on, and that's done. So if you don't feel confident about doing that, I do suggest getting it professionally done. Now, they do say that if you don't do it once a year, once every 10 years is okay. And then afterwards, make sure that you ventilate the room so that the paper doesn't get moldy again. So in this video, you see the inside of the oshiire, or the traditional closet. And this was the shelf that was broken. I had never seen a shelf break like that before. That was the first time for me, and I was so very shocked and disappointed by that. I thought maybe the previous owners had put something heavy on the shelf, like maybe a tansu or something like that, but then I looked at the floor and got immediately scared. Remember, I told you that this room has a water problem. The bottom floor of the oshiire was damp to the touch, suggesting that either there was water running underneath the room or the room was flooded at one point. So I was so very terrified that it was the latter. After consultation with the contractor, they figured that the water may have been running underneath the room at some point, but should not be a problem now. But because of the damp floor discovery, the whole oshiire was replaced. It's kind of like a box. They just slipped it in to install it. Now there is this new, extremely beautiful closet. As you can see, this shelf is certified up to 200 kilograms of weight, and it is very sturdy against humidity. That's very good because I can pile all of this studio equipment on it, and it is guaranteed to hold up my mess. My organized mess. Y'all think this is super cluttered, but I actually organized this just recently. I do a little better job with explaining what happened to the tatami floors, but this was a big major project that took about a month to complete. So first, let me explain to you the structure of a tatami floor. So the tatami floor that you see here lies on top of plywood flooring, and that lies on top of horizontal wooden slats. Then underneath that is an open-air concrete basin. Not as big as a crawl space, because we don't want Dorobo crawling in. Then there are vents on the outside walls for that air to run through, a common feature in most traditional building structures. This all helps cut down on humidity because for anyone who's ever experienced a Japanese summer, you know. I mentioned before that I was worried there was water running through the bottom of the room or the room had been flooded at some point. As you walked across the tatami floor, there was a very distinct mushy path from the oshiire to the middle of the room. I figured that the horizontal slats were rotten and that would cause the flooring to cave in. During the consultation, the carpenter lifted the tatami to see how bad it was, and maybe it wasn't that bad. I love how nonchalant they were because, yeah, it was kind of bad. So, just like you saw in the video, all the flooring was taken out. The tatami floors were salvageable and were taken to a specialist to be redone. You know, I did not know that you could redo tatami. I just thought that you took the whole thing and threw it away. But no, you can actually take off the grass part from the core and replace it with a new one. In the meantime, the contractor representative handed me a book of heri and told me to pick one. I loved how I was able to pick out the designs myself. It was a first for me. I've also never been to a tatami workshop before and would like to learn more. If you have a tatami workshop, please invite me and let me learn about how tatami is made. 日本語も大丈夫ですよ。畳の作り方の動画撮らせてください. As the tatami were being worked on in the workshop, the carpenter and his magic hands went to work. To tackle the humidity issue, he first bored holes in this wall here and under the oshiire here. He then installed a fan so that air could move a little better under the floors because the outside vents were just not cutting it. Then the new slats were installed, followed by humidity-resistant plywood. That's a thing. And finally, the finished tatami mats. New tatami mats have a very distinct musty smell to them, but that's pretty much all gone now. I do love new tatami mat smell. The scene that made the room look like something out of a horror movie was the state of the shoji. The paper was brown and flaking off the frame. It gave me chills every time I saw them. That paper had to be replaced. I didn't have the shoji professionally done because the budget way of doing it is easy enough. What you do is you go to your local konan hardware store, that's Japan's version of Home Depot or B&Q, and you peruse the shoji paper aisle. Now, there's so many options that you can choose from to get your shoji paper. First one is, how do you want to put the paper on the frame? So there are many options. First one is traditional paper and glue. Another option is that you can buy double-sided tape and tape the paper onto the frame, or you can use an iron, if you prefer to use an iron, and iron it onto the frame. And then you have to choose the design. So do you want plain white paper? Do you want cherry blossom flowers or cherry blossom snow? Or do you want bamboo leaves? Or do you want this little stringy washi type of style? And then, do you want traditional washi paper, which is really easy to tear, or they have a plastic option? Of course, this is Japan. So the plastic option is very good for if you have pets, and pets like to paw at things. And it's very durable stuff. And because, you know, Japan, country of plastic. So, plastic cherry blossom snow design taped onto the wooden frame, and whatcha! New shoji. Wow! And that is the new studio. Change out! A very big thank you to Fukuya Koumuten for all of their hard work. ありがとうございました。ここはとてもきれいになりました。And thank you for watching this episode. Give this video a like and tell me in the comments what surprised you about the studio construction. If you're a new Kouldan fan, please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. If you would like to support this channel, please buy me coffee at the Saigakute Garden Cafe. Link is in the description. Thank you to VIP Kouldan Performance member Paul Elphinstone. Now, I know you want to watch more, so here are your options. See me peruse a virtual armor museum, or listen to a quietly told Kouldan ghost tale about a sword and some foxes. But that's all I have for today. See you next time.